everybody, and welcome back to Mr. Grimm's Place. Today's episode we're going to talk about weathering your coveralls. This is going to be a cosplay series I'm going to do, talking about different techniques for all kinds of stuff, makeup to coveralls to making your mask look right. And today we're going to cover part of weathering, what I like to call roughing them up. As you can see, that collar is a little beat up. I'm going to go over how to do that, the best techniques, and how to not completely destroy the coveralls while making them look rough. So let's get into it. So first of all, we're going to need light. Going to need lots of it. Move this a little bit. So I'm going to turn on a couple lights. So what we're going to cover today is how to make dickies specifically look good. You know, a lot of people complain about dickies and their zippers. It's an easy fix. You're going to need a couple tools for that. So you can either use a military style can opener. Sorry for the ASMR. Or if you own a Leatherman, it comes with one of those can openers. One of these. Okay? This is what you're going to want. And it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. No, you're not going to be cutting the whole thing out with that. But you're going to need this to get in there and cut the initial sides here. And so that's how you're going to get it started. So to get this started, you're going to want to stick this in the corner. In one of the corners, okay? Poke through. Like so. And like you're gonna pry it open, right? And it will slowly cut it. And it'll give you enough space to get your scissors in there. Now you don't need any specific type of scissors for this. Most will do. And so just like that, that's what you're looking for. And cut it all the way across. Don't worry too much if you don't get it all the way through to this this corner, because we'll do the same thing here. Make a nice little hole there for the scissors to catch and release it. Not too big of a deal. And then what you'll do then is take the scissors in that first hole you made and cut it across. I'll show you this side. Just a second. Swivel. So like this side, I cut them close to the fold of the outer part of the pocket. You get them close, and then what you can do after that is take a lighter and singe it. And what that'll do is it'll make it so it doesn't fray and make a mess. It'll make it look better. Let me see if I can find some frayed part and show you. Yeah, I got nothing. But it's not too big of a deal if it doesn't look perfect. You can singe it and it'll make it so that it doesn't fray later. And you just do that to the other side. And it'll be taken care of. Sorry to switch sides of the mic, but here's how you're going to want to do this. Stick it in here and get close to the edge of this top of the pocket. If you don't get it too close, it's fine. You can always go back and trim it up. And then we will use a trusty lighter to take care of any excess danglies. Go to the other side and do the same thing. Pretty straightforward. Then I'll switch to the other side of the camera again. And yeah, here's the nice part. You go right under there, you tuck it under, oops, and you just clip it. Just like that. Zipper gone. Trim this up a bit. And it looks 3 times better right off the bat. I've seen people remove this. You don't need to. I don't think that really matters too much. But if you're looking for the most screen accurate, you're going to want to take this off. What do they call it? A de-threader. And you can get under these threads and rip them up. You can also use this. Again, you know, do whatever works, whatever you have. I do want to trim this up a little bit. There's a little hanging off. Not a big deal. Here's what'll happen if you don't use a lighter and take care of it. You just make a big mess and just shred. So, you know, clip it, cut it. Use a lighter to get those frayed edges. And yeah, I'll show you real quick. All you want to do is go like this. You don't even have to hold it too long. Don't worry, it's not going to burst into flames. This is flame retardant. But it will catch bigger pieces. Then we're going to hit over here. Better light. We'll hit this edge. It'll go out. Blow it out. And I want to hit this a little bit here. Just get that taken care of. You can also use a torch for this. But yeah. You don't have to worry too much about catching it on fire. You can sit here and hold it all day. It ain't gonna light. So, yes, it's safe to torch it. Yes, it's safe to use a lighter on it. And let's move on to how I did the collar. So when it comes to the collar, there's a few things you're going to want to do. You're going to want to find something sharp and abrasive. You can use a file. I got a file on here. You should definitely get a Leatherman if you can. You can use a file. Use the metal side, which is the diamond side. It's looks more like a hex shape. This side is for wood, the straight. And what you're going to want to do is just rub it, and that's going to give you that look of a worn out, very worn coverall. This stuff is pretty tough, so you're going to want to put some strength into it. That's kind of what we're looking for. Starting to look older. And something very, very important is to put the coveralls on and feel where you're touching it the most. You're touching up here on this part of the collar, or this part. You know, where do you button this at? I'm going to go ahead and say that if you push on this button a lot, that you should, you can do a couple things. You can use a torch. Sorry. You can use a torch while pushing down on this. See that? Or, if you don't want to use a lighter, and this is perfectly fine, you can get a pencil with some lead and just kind of color over it. And just keep doing that. You can also use paint. Paint will do the same thing. But what you're looking for is that oiliness. So if you can use paint, that's great. Something else you can use is a pastel. It's going to make it look oily on that button where you push down a lot. You know, it's going to make it look genuinely dirty. And you can do that. I'm not going to go into the paints and the dirts yet. We're focusing on making it look weathered and cut. So obviously put it on, wear it, feel around where your hands go the most. For example, this sleeve, you know, where does the palm side of your hand rest? Mark it with a pen or a pencil. Do something to mark it so you know where your hand sits the most, and you can just start doing what I just did, making it look rough. And then if you want to make it look even rougher, like this, you just get a knife. A knife with a serrated edge is best to scrape it. But if you do that, you want to make sure you're going in all directions. And obviously, I highly recommend getting the frayed edges and making sure that it's not going to shred later while you're wearing it at a convention or something. You know, so just get in there and fray some of those edges. And that'll take care of that. What I did here in the back is I actually just took the knife and cut it. You can also use scissors if you want to be a little more precise. Get in there with your scissors and start cutting away. I don't really think you can go too overboard as long as you are reasonable with where you make those cuts. I think that's pretty important to make sure you're putting them in a smart spot that makes sense. So I did start some other holes and things. This is going to be one. So bullet holes, we're going to talk about that later in this video. I'm going to film that later once I have a little more research done. One thing you can do for that is if you look up Halloween 2 bullet holes reference photos, a couple of things pop up. You can go straight to the images and find a plethora of photos from it, or a website will come up. It's called Official Halloween Message Board, and there's a thread in there all about where those bullet holes are. They have all the important photos you're going to need, so that's what you need to do. I will link that in the description. And yeah. So a few things to think about is where you grab it to zip it. You know, down here by the waist. All the places you grab it. Remember these spots and all that. The button I was talking about earlier. You want to know where in that button. And then we want to do this. So where are you grabbing? Right here on the collars. Here. I highly recommend wearing out the pockets as well. Especially there. I wear Dickies because they fit me really well. You know, as you can see, they fit really well. You know, you can use red caps, Big Macs, but for the weathering purposes and just general comfort, I choose Dickies. So as you can see, I took care of the pockets. There's no ugly gold zippers dangling around. And so now I want to talk about a very important part. So I have a pen here, and what I'm going to do is make some marks. So where's your elbow at? I'm going to hit towards the top of your highest part of the bone. You just make a little dot. A line. No big deal, as you can see. Do the same thing over here. Make a line. That's marked. That's where you want to weather it the most. Because when you're not wearing them, it's pretty hard to tell where your elbow hits. And for the cuffs, where is it hitting the most when you're just standing? So, I'm going to mark it. Just so I have an idea of where I should be weathering. Don't know if you can see that, but you probably can't. I'll do it the same over here. I'm going to do the same on the knees. You can't see this. This is pretty awkward. And don't worry about like a little ink mark, because we're probably going to cover it with dirt and paint. So, that's where my knees go. You can make 2 dots if you want. Because there's 2 parts of the bone. You know what I mean? So you do that. And that's all. That's about all it takes. So now you can take it off and it's all marked. But yeah, just remember where you're grabbing it the most. And kind of weather it out. And we'll put paint over it to make it look oily and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's about it for this part. So here we are again on the table. As you can see, this little dot is where my elbow hits. And that is the most pointiest part of my elbow. You know, when you make a elbow, right about here is where that is. And that'll give you kind of an idea of where you need to weather. It's not a big deal of getting it perfect to that specific bone. But a couple things I use. Like I said, a file. You can use this wood sides for this part. Just make sure you're going in the correct direction. And this is in-house instructions. There's a really good way to do this outside using a tennis ball and concrete. And you put the tennis ball inside the sleeve and you ball it up and you rub it across the concrete as hard as you can. Make sure you don't rip it. But, I mean, you can rip it if you want. But there is a hole in this elbow in the movie. I'm going to show you how to make a hole. It's kind of an oval-shaped hole. I'll toss up an image up here. It's from Halloween 1. The famous fence scene where he runs into Tommy Doyle, and as he's grabbing him, you notice a hole in his elbow. So, we're going to take an awl. AWL, if you're trying to look it up. These come larger and more precise. This is obviously just a Leatherman tool. And what you want to do is get your hand in here. Basically web out your hand. Let me find this spot first. So web out your hand. Get a feel for where it is. And move your hand, poke the hole. And now we got a hole started. Now you can either use your pocket knife or a scalpel, a small scalpel. An X-Acto knife works too. Or if you can get precise enough with the end of your scissors, start cutting a little bit around and make that shape. Now, I'm not going to do this right now because the image is on my phone. I'm filming with my phone. But I will jump clip to that and show you. And so I made the hole. Hold on a minute. Let me find something. Put in the sleeve real quick to show you, because it is kind of hard to see on camera. So we made the hole, or I did. You didn't do anything. You're just sitting there watching. Maybe you're following along. If you are, thanks for following along. So we made this oval. Now this looks big. It's not big. I just looked at the image. Also, I'll correct myself before one of you even does. It's not Tommy Doyle. It's one of the bullies. He grabs. I'm stupid. But I cut it out. I actually used the scissors. Once I made that hole with the awl, what I did was I poked through with this knife and made a bigger cut. And I used that cut to cut out the top part and then the lower part with the scissors. And I did use the end, the very tips. It worked perfect. And that's how we got that. Now you're probably thinking, because you just saw the image, how do we make that look rough and like it was worn in instead of cut? And this is where our trusty file comes in handy again. Basically what you want to do is take out the beer koozie and stick the file inside and kind of do that. Okay? Back and forth with the wood side. That works best. Just back and forth. Make sure you're not cutting the hole bigger. We're just roughing the... You guys can't see that. Hold on a minute. Let me move this light. Here to do a good job, not a quick job. So anyway, we're just going to go in and out just a little bit. Just like so. And then you'll do it at the top too. And as you wear these, it'll wear in. Don't worry about it. You know, we just do it a little bit. Just enough to make it look. We'll move on to the collars, the cuffs. Let me see if I can find my marks. Right there. So you can do a few things now with this. We can cut it up and make like a big slice in it to match your hand, or we can just rough this up around the collar. Maybe use, again, a serrated part of the knife and rough out right here where your hand would be. It's literally that simple. You can use a bigger file if you want. I'm just using this because it's handy. But you can get a big file or a rasp even. I imagine a rasp would be perfect for this material, as it's really thick woven cotton. It'll have a hard time ripping through it super fast, so you can do that. And basically what we're going to want to do is this. Again, and you want to go against it so that it does that. Okay, see, there's my mark, and we'll go the other way too, obviously, up and in a away motion, sort of like that. And again, I'm using the diamond side so that we're getting some extra oomph. And as you can see, it begins to tear in a very specific manner. Let me show you a sleeve off of my leather jacket to show you what I'm trying to mimic in a way. So this is a pretty old leather jacket, and this is naturally how this turned out. I didn't do this. It's just, it's 20 years old. This happens. So we're trying to go for this. Now this is obviously an elastic, but same thing for all clothing. If you wear it a lot, it's going to wear out. So this is kind of the look. Now on the other side, I will make a slice, and kind of rip it up a little bit more. And yeah, we'll go for that. Now we do not want to singe this. You don't want to use your lighter here to singe these. You want it to continue to look rough, and it's going to look rough with continuous wearing. And you're not really going to wear these all that often. How often do you go to a con or take your kids trick-or-treating? It's not important. We want to do this on holes as well as big slices, because, for example, here's the start of one of my bullet wounds. If I were to leave this, it would eventually just rip up or down. I'm also going to cut it up the other ways, much like the bullet wounds in the actual coveralls, which again you can find on that message board. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of resources. Even going on Facebook and finding a Facebook group for replica props. There's replica prop forum as well. I guarantee you're going to find tons of people. This is the stuff you singe, okay? And we'll talk more about that when we get into the bullets. So, here we are talking about these cuffs, Something else you can do is cut the threads that come loose. Just make it look rough. I mean, naturally, it looks like somebody's been wearing this. And you can make it look as rough as you want. But just remember, sometimes the rougher the better. Because we're going to put paint on this and dirt. And it's going to cover up a lot of what you're seeing. So, keep that in mind. I might use like an acrylic paint in here. Like a wash, kind of. To mimic skin oils. I don't know for sure. We'll see. But yes, on to the next part. Now, this is me personally. I would go ahead and rough up along the sides here, where the belt line is, just because that's where your hands are going to be. And again, the pockets, we want to do the same exact thing we did with the cuffs. When you have overlapped pieces of fabric like this, the file is your friend in making it look rough. Even if we're just roughing up the edge of it. Okay? Just like that. Just make it look rough. And, obviously I'm kind of like rushing this. I'm not going to sit here and do it for you. But that's what you want to do. And you'll kind of come up with something worn out looking. I'll do this real quick. And that's something else. If this goes somewhere, just let it go. And make a cut or something. Or, more of a filing look. It's fine. Again, if you saw Halloween 2, you know how dirty, gross, and beat up the coveralls were. So that's what we're going for. This used pocket look. You can do it up here in this little coin pocket. And again, on the other side, there's two pocket parts. I'd do it there and there. I'd do this side more. Don't ever do something evenly. like from one elbow to the other, make them look different, make these pockets look different. We do not want uniform or symmetrical. We want wild and crazy weathering that looks natural. And for the butt, you're going to want to do some weathering on the butt. Not a lot. You can just, I'll probably remove this zipper and then rough that up. And on the back end, I might remove this Dickies patch. But you know, most guys who do this will tell you, just go outside and sit on it. Roll around in some dirt, seriously. Go for it. Make a mess. Work with what you got. And I think that's going to end this episode. And we'll get to the bullet holes in a separate one. I'll probably make a whole single video out of that, just because this video is getting really long. And I want to make sure I cover everything properly. But yeah. That's going to cover the main things you need to know to weather your coveralls, and removing those pockets, those zipper pockets, because I'm positive I'm not the only person using Dickies. Use what fits you. That is the most important part. Don't worry so much about looks, because the mask is what you should be worrying about. For these, obviously, I'm going to get a Warlock. It's the best H2 you can get. Yada yada, I've already ordered it. So I'm going to start working on these for the next month or two. And hopefully this is helpful. And I can reach out to you guys who may be new to this, or you that have been a part of this for a while. And we can talk about it and work together and see what we got going on. And another important thing I'd say to weather is the zipper cover strip along the edge and on the front. Find random spots with your serrated blade and just scratch it all up. Make it look worn, you know. And like I said, the important parts are the elbows, your knees, and butt, collar, cuffs, seams. And that's going to have to do it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and for the love of God, subscribe.